Hello everyone, my name is Robert Moen. Today I'll be presenting in a PowerPoint format as opposed to a traditional poster format, and I'll try to explain all the important findings and what we learned from all of it. The project I'll be presenting today is consequences of short, intermittent, and long access schedules of fentanyl self-administration on motivation and BET gene expression. All work was conducted in the Sartor Lab for Behavioral Epigenetics. This poster was worked on by myself, Robert Moen, a current P4 in the UConn Pharmacy program, Christopher Babigian, a PhD candidate in neuroscience, as well as Dr. Sartor, our PI. First, we'll start with the abstract and all associated information. The importance of the study being presented today is that of the public health concern for substance use disorder, as well as the opioid epidemic that is upon us today. There's never been a more important time to identify effective treatments for substance use disorder, given the staggering loss of life from drug addiction that we all in some way, shape, or form face each and every day. Next, we'll move on to the goals associated with this study. Moving along, we'll head into the introduction and background information of this study. It is our hopes that by studying intermittent access in an animal model for opioid addiction, that we'll be able to bring an innovative perspective to the world of addiction research, which will help us continue working with a team of like-minded individuals who are all determined to transform all those who suffer from substance use disorder into recovered and healthy members of society again. Next up is the material and methods for this experiment. Next, we'll move on to some results with number of infusions across acquisition and assigned schedules. Key findings for number of lever presses and associated infusions where responding during assigned schedules was significantly different between long access and both short access and intermittent access schedules, as well as between short access and intermittent access schedules, with long access producing the highest number of lever presses. Continuing along with results, we'll look into some total fentanyl consumption as well as progressive ratio breaking point data. Some key findings for total fentanyl consumption is that average daily drug consumption during assigned schedules was highest for long access. However, this finding was not found to be statistically significant due to outliers in the dataset. Some key findings for progressive ratio and breaking point is that there were no differences between breaking point were observed following short access, intermittent access, and long access schedules, due in part to the outliers in the dataset as well as the small sample size. Moving on to our results for molecular analyses is our modulation of BET gene expression following short access, intermittent access, and long access fentanyl self-administration. The first brain region to talk about is the cerebellum. Following short, intermittent, and long access of fentanyl self-administration, there was no observable difference in BRD2, BRD3, or BRD4. The next brain region that was examined was the dorsal stratum. Following short, intermittent, and long access of fentanyl self-administration, there was a statistically significant difference in BRD2 expression across all schedules as compared to control. However, there was not a statistically significant difference in BRD3 or BRD4 expression. The next brain region that was examined was the PFC, or Prefrontal Cortex. Following short, intermittent, and long access of fentanyl self-administration, there are no observable differences between BRD2, BRD3, or BRD4 expression. The final brain region that was examined was the NAC, or nucleus accumbens. Following short, intermittent, and long access of fentanyl self-administration, there was no observable difference in BRD2, BRD3, or BRD4 expression. Moving on to next is our summary slide to help wrap up this presentation. Just to recap and sum up the findings of this study, the long access group had more fentanyl consumption than the short access and intermittent access groups. There were no observed statistically significant differences in breaking points between short access, intermittent access, and long access. And in the dorsal stratum, BRD2 was significantly upregulated following short access, intermittent access, and long access fentanyl self-administration compared to control. Important to also keep in mind is that a lot of the shortcomings of this project were simply due to a small sample size. This was a pilot study, so there's a lot of improvements that we can make, and one of the biggest ones is going to be sample size. Moving on to finally is our future direction slide that'll help us take what we learned and apply it moving forward. And finally is our acknowledgements for funding of this project. I'd like to thank the UConn School of Pharmacy Carl A. Neifert Pharmacy Student Research Award, the UConn School of Pharmacy Antipus Family Research Scholarship Award, and the AFP Gateway to Research Scholarship Award for supporting and making this project possible.